Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and a very special welcome on where we're recording this, the middle of January. You might be hearing this towards the back end of January, early February. But absolute pleasure to welcome to the podcast Kalen Marie Cotto, coming in all the way from Texas. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. We're just talking. You're in Texas. I'm in Melbourne. Probably weather is very similar at the moment because Texas is probably relatively coolish at this time of year, and even though it's summer here, it's quite cool in Melbourne. So but it's interesting. We're talking on the other side of the world in completely different time zones, and it looks like we're in the same room.
Yep, it's so fun. I love that.
Awesome. Hey, Kalen, looking forward to this conversation. You're the founder of KMC Digital, and also the author of the Revenue Runway. You help businesses and startups drive revenue and get off the ground and work with them through their initial phases. I'd love to firstly jump into a little bit of your background in terms of you've got a military background as well. I know you've been in public affairs. Can you just talk a little bit about your background and what has led you to running KMC Digital and some of the, I guess, the stories along the way that's helped craft what you do today?
I think really having my own business was sort of accidental. I always say that accidental entrepreneur, accidental marketer, accidental everything, because it was kind of out of necessity. I grew up in a family that had a janitorial services company as our business. My parents started out smaller doing houses, and then they transitioned realizing, gosh, if we did corporate accounts and bigger buildings, we could make more money, we could hire people. So I watched them scale. I watched them market with, the old school door hangers and yellow pages. But then I kind of did my own thing. I went to college. I actually got my degree in journalism. While working at a local newspaper in college, I was introduced to the ROTC program at my university, and I was doing a story on them because they won an award. And some of the students were like, you should join ROTC. Like, you would really like it. At least just come out and work out with us. And it counted towards a PE credit, which was like the whole basis of my joining the military, which is so funny. Like, that was an accident too. The recruiter, I really liked it. So I joined them. I worked out with them. I had a lot of fun. And the recruiter said, do you want to join? And I said, well, I really love journalism and I want to do something with that. And I hadn't even thought of PR or anything corporate. I just thought I would love to just be a reporter. I love talking to people. I
Yeah.
like interviewing them, that kind of thing. He said, actually, we have public affairs and there's a unit less than an hour away. And so I was like, dang it. Like, I told him I would enlist if he found a unit, and I didn't think there would be one. But he found one. He was very crafty. So I ended up joining, told me all the reasons why I should and whatnot. But it was post 9/11. I was a little bit nervous about joining right around the time that I was going in. 9/11 had just happened. So I thought, if I can still do this fun job that I love and they're going to pay me and I'm going to learn a bunch of stuff, I might as well do it. So I did 10 years Army Reserve, one deployment to Iraq in 2007 and 8. I got to work with a lot of cool international journalists who were doing my dream job, but I kind of did it from a different vantage point. And then
Mm.
after returning back, found out about, I was, well, actually, before I even deployed, I ended up getting a job in corporate doing internal communication stuff. Came back, they put me in the corporate comm area. And then when the Army asked me to come back on active duty full time, I left completely the civilian job. And I was about almost 3 or 4 years doing active. And then I got pregnant with my daughter and thought I really want to be free from this BlackBerry leash that I have with my chain of command. I may want to go back to reserve status. And so
Yeah.
that's sort of how it started.
And you mentioned the word BlackBerry there. So for
That's
people,
how old I am.
man, that's going back in time. I remember having a BlackBerry when I was in corporate as well. Man, wonder what's happened to them.
I know they're non-existent.
So, so you wanted to free yourself of the BlackBerry chain. You found out you were pregnant with your daughter. What happened then? So what was the catalyst to then start the I guess the journey of KMC Digital?
I was the youngest one in my office, so all my coworkers were retiring, and I was barely halfway through my career. So they were like, "Hey, you do website stuff for us at the Army office to update the Army website. You do, all this graphic design stuff and whatever. Can you help me build a website for my business? Can you help me with a logo? I want to retire and start my own thing." And I was doing things for like $500 or for free, or like I didn't really think about it. And then I was working on something for someone. I went to their house, we were on the computer, and she's like, "Why don't you just start your own business doing this, and to
Mm.
do side work and that way." And it just turned into something else. Over time, I got serious about it, filed my paperwork, and now I pivoted a few times, rebranded once, just to
Mm.
expand because I was doing only military and
Yeah.
working with that niche, and then I expanded out to work with more people.
And I think in the bio you sent through it that particular business was largely a referral based business.
Mhm.
And then because a lot of businesses today rely fairly heavily on referrals. And once you've got a good reputation within the marketplace, it can actually fund a lot of great business and repeat business, obviously. And there's a trust
Mhm.
transfer that happens there. But
Yep.
you can't rely on referrals for all of your business as your main source of income. So how did you then have to pivot from having a referral based business to then a business that you become quote unquote serious about? That, okay, I need to now go and look for new customers and start to, I guess, branch out and put my name out there.
Yeah, I think, well, I did a lot of trial and error like everybody because even though it was considered, I was calling myself a marketing agency, really I was just helping with branding and website and kind of the foundational elements for people. I wasn't doing oh my gosh, the word just escaped my brain. The performance marketing, like bringing leads in, all the things. Like I just felt it
Demand
was.
generation.
Yes, there you go. That's it. So I was not in that arena. I was more branding and verbiage and all that. And then I partnered with somebody and I took a class actually for meta ads and all the things and started to dabble with that. And I had really great success marketing local events with meta ads, and just putting together things that way for very inexpensive. I remember doing an ad for $40 and I had 2,500 people show up to this event where we couldn't
2,500.
2,500. We couldn't even park the cars. There were so many cars. And then the police actually came, but I just thought like back then it was much easier. Now everyone's got a funnel, everybody's got ads. And so I ended up taking another class to kind of hone in the messaging piece. And there's a company called Mint CRO. I know we're not talking about them today, but they have a really great program where they use message testing to find out what core messages are actually resonating with your audience versus doing a focus group or something like that. So when I
Mm.
learned their methodology, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. And I did find that using it with clients, sometimes they had a lead magnet they thought was going to be amazing. But when we tested the languaging and what people were really wanting, we had to shift it to something totally different. So it is helpful. And then once that was in place, we test out the landing page and we test different headlines and whatever placements. But I think that's when I started to realize, the minutia that can go into all of that testing and trying to get a constant flow. And now right now we're mainly doing cold email and I'm working on a webinar. So just to because of the book and all that, we're pivoting and adding something in. But I think even just having one way of getting clients in that is cold and then also leveraging your existing relationships helps you when things kind of slow down. And there's seasons that slow down. January can be a little slower sometimes, and
Yeah,
August can be a little slower. Mhm.
it's interesting actually as you speak about that in December and January in Australia. It's when a lot of companies sort of wind down, and we've got Melbourne Cup Day in early November. So a lot of organizations, it's like a bookend between November, say the first Tuesday in November, I think it was the fourth last year, right up to Australia Day, which is the 26th of January.
Oh yeah.
That kind
It's
of
a long.
3 month period is just psychologically people slow down. And it's just this thing that happens. And then after that, it's just full full hand to the pump and it's just
They go
nuts until
crazy.
November again. Um,
Yep.
So I wanted to delve into a few things there, and one of them is not relying on referral based methods and certainly not relying on a website. I'm staggered at the number of people I speak to that, oh, I've got to make sure my website's nice and pretty. And I say to them, do you realize that most people actually don't go to your website? And if they do, they stay there for about 6 seconds. And if it's not nothing attractive, they'll leave and won't come back. So
Yeah.
you need to do
Yeah.
some other things. So what are some, I guess, some tactics or some principles that you've learned through your journey that can help people, whether they're a small business owner or even whether in a corporate organization, trying to get cut through in a marketplace that's very noisy, where everybody seems to be the same, that
Mhm.
we can sort of stand out in the marketplace.
I think as a small business, it's a bit simpler. So what I tell the people is, at least here in the States, I'm having them just create a Google My Business listing and optimize that, and then do Facebook and Instagram to have those two platforms synced up, and then do ad testing locally. If you're in a smaller community, you can saturate. I mean, even if you just did a selfie saying, "Hey, we clean pools and we're really good at it, and we have openings coming up, like come and test us out. Let us come do a free cleaning for you." And it's your face, and I mean, you'll pretty much saturate a whole small town for not a lot of money. I know we
Mm.
did some testing like $300. And my client was like, "Can you please shut these off? Like everyone's seeing me everywhere. I'm getting tagged all the time." I said, but that's what you want. You're getting brand awareness to the point where now everybody knows her company, and it's just a matter of timing whether people call her up. So I think locally it's a little more simple, and I wouldn't even do a website until there's a business need for it. So point being, you've grown to the point where you need to hire a receptionist or something, and you want to have a calendar on a website that's streamlined, and you have a bunch of testimonials that you can put somewhere, and maybe before and after photos if someone needs a hub to look at you as kind of a storefront. But like you said, most of the time they're probably going to find you elsewhere on social media, or if they're, I mean, sometimes I search in Facebook just
Yeah.
for like local dry cleaner, and I know in Facebook their page is going to be up there, but if they haven't posted in 3 years, I'm like, oh, they're probably not open anymore and they forgot to delete their social media channel. So you get a website, or the other way around, website's dead. So I just say, if you're gonna do a website, start with just a landing page, that
Mm.
has what you do, a way to book, and keep it very simple. I think the days of putting 5, 10, 15 grand into a website for a small business are really coming to an end, especially with Squarespace, and even not counting AI and all the lovable websites you can build.
Mm.
Um, you putting a website up is pretty simple. And so I'd say focus on getting clients first. What are you offering them? What does it cost?
And the
That
key
kind of
thing there, and we'll talk about the revenue runway in a second, the key thing there is to understand where your ideal customers hang out
yeah.
and what sort of, well, I guess, what sort of platforms they typically use. So in my space, often in the corporate and the business to business space, LinkedIn is
Mhm.
probably the most
Oh,
obvious place that people hang out. So I'm the same. I mean, I've got a website, but I haven't updated it in a couple of years, and it's relatively still up to date. But LinkedIn is where everything's happening. So if people want to see me, that's where they'll go. So they'll see stuff, and I'm making sure I'm posting every single day just to build that level of brand awareness. So
yeah.
it's really important.
Hmm.
What's your thoughts then on the, I guess, the paid traffic versus the organic? And because there might be people out there that starting a new business or don't have a huge budget to be able to throw out Meta ads or Instagram ads or what have you. What sort of things can they do to, I guess, build awareness, even though it might be more of a slower burn, but still build that organic reach?
Yeah, I think that, well, and that's kind of part of strategy when you're looking at, when you figure out who your ideal client is and where they're going. I'd say one of the biggest things that people make a mistake is they don't talk to one person in their video content or in their copy, and just saying, like, just talk. I know it sounds cheesy, but even just saying, "Hey mom, I know you've had like a really busy day and you have all the kids wanting everything when you get home from work. Here's, a meal subscription so you don't have to think." But talk to the mom instead of talking to, we know busy moms are stressed out. Here's our meal thing, because then it's kind of,
Mm,
I just feel like the direct language and then building out content just like you're talking to the person, almost like you're talking to them on a sales call. Now, when you're in a corporate level, that's a little bit different. Most of the social media management I've done is actually a corporate level where we build out content pillars. So that way we're telling, because often there's a bunch of different departments, there's multiple products, multiple avenues to contact a corporate client. So they're a little bit different. But we do try to like look at a 30-day roadmap and have themes mapped out so that we don't miss anything and it keeps us on schedule. But even if you're corporate, have people that work at the corporate office talking about what they do and why they love working there.
mm.
It does not have to be a $500,000 production. It can be an iPhone shot horizontally in good lighting, talking about I'm Bob and I'm in finance and I love this place and I've been here 30 years. I think people are just so scared of sharing their personalities even now. And I
Mm,
remember when I worked for corporate, we weren't even using social media yet, and all the lawyers were freaking out and they're like, we can't have our employees just posting random stuff. We're not reviewing it. Like, this is insane. We're gonna ruin our brand. And I'm like, what? Like, we were writing about puppies and kittens, and it was an animal pet store. And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's fun stuff. And when they realized, oh, all hell is not going to break loose, they calmed down a little bit and let us do some fun things. But I think now that it's more complex, corporate wise, I feel like a strategy is non-negotiable, really. And talking to the people in your organization, anyone who touches marketing in any way, whether it's proposal writing, because that's kind of a form of marketing, or even just answering the phone, in their department and talking to people from outside the organization. That's part of what we do when we do fractional CMO stuff under
Yeah.
KMC Digital, but Revenue Runway is a minified version of that.
So let's talk about, well, before we talk about the revenue runway, because there's a process there. Um, so you often talk about building a bulletproof business, right? So what we don't have control over is a lot of the macroeconomic stuff that's happening, right? So stuff that's happened with Venezuela that's recent, stuff that's happened in Australia that's recent, and stuff that will continue to happen, whether that be changes of government or AI taking over the world. And some people are really worried about that. But
Yep.
when you think about it, some overarching, I guess, key principles that you use with your clients and maybe you've used yourself in order to not so much protect yourself, but to continue to be able to build a solid business and a bulletproof business when things perhaps go down.
I think that one of the, and I, part of the strategy part is when you're looking at how we do a lot with customer journeys. So we have, where are the touch points? And I think that helps you protect yourself. So if you're looking at, and people say top of funnel or whatnot, but I feel like it's almost hard to even use that anymore because everybody's everywhere. So to try to
Mm,
funnel people in, but you can break up the different engagement points of where customers are going to interact with you and figure out how to optimize all that. So if you've already got clients, are you asking them for testimonials, and are you asking them for referrals? Do you have a referral program? Do they know that you have one? That's one thing that I am working on because I don't even have that. I don't, I let people know, but I want to build something in there that we already do it with clients. Hey, do you give 10% off if you refer? Or do you
mm,
have an affiliate program? Are you telling people? I remember one client of mine, we set all the foundational elements up, and she ended up just, we trained her on stuff and she went and ran with it. And I said, you could either do it yourself or we can do it on retainer. She's like, I'm going to try doing it myself. And I started getting the emails coming in. She never once asked anyone to do anything, buy anything, click on anything. And she calls me like a couple months later. She goes, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, I'm not getting anyone like interested. I said, I've been getting your emails and you're not, you have to tell them to buy something, or you
yes.
have to tell them why this thing you're telling them about. So like the emails were so emotional and heartfelt and really nice, but then you're like, oh, that was nice. And then you close the email and you're like, oh, okay, like, but I told her, just say, hey, if you're struggling with this same situation that I'm talking about, get my book, get into our membership program, get support, because she is speaking to people who are suffering with really important problems and she has a great program. But if people don't know what to do, and it sounds silly, but when you go to a website that's not organized well, and all you wanted to do is figure out pricing or figure out what services someone offers and you can't find it, or you're confused by what it says, you're not gonna engage, just find somebody else. And I think that permeates through every part.
Well, it's interesting you say that. There are a lot of there are a lot of people out there that are afraid of this sale thing because I don't want to sound
You know
pushy.
better than
I don't want to be coming across as needy. And I say to them, well, hang on a second, just understand that you've got a problem that you've been able to identify. That if you're talking to a person or an organization that is suffering from that problem, wouldn't they be wanting to look for a solution to solve that problem? And wouldn't you be doing them a disservice if you didn't give them the opportunity to at least review that solution?
especially if they're sitting there with a budget and they're like, gosh, we need to find somebody to fix this thing. A
Yeah,
lot of times they already know or they have a feeling of what's not quite right.
yeah.
And so if they can find you and you're like the unicorn they've been looking for, but they don't know you exist, it's not good.
And this is where, and I'd love your thoughts on this, particularly with the clients that you're working with, and even for yourself. This psychological element of what if I ask somebody to buy something and they say no?
Mm.
So I guess the attachment to the outcome. What if I've got this great service, I've got this great product. If I offer it to somebody and they say no, does that mean they're saying no to me? And what does that sort of mean? What's your experience on that? And is that something that you've had to grapple with?
Yes, definitely. Especially in the beginning, because you're like, oh, I got my nice little website ready and I got all my social medias ready and I texted all my friends that I'm starting a new business. And in the beginning when you're little, we're still little, but when you're brand spanking new, you're so excited. And I still see friends like, I'm launching this, I'm launching that. And that's great. But then if they hear no a few times, they kind of get down, and I used to get down and let it like, they don't think I'm good enough, or they don't
Mm,
think that I can handle this, and it might not even be that. It just might be that they really want someone that has experience working in a particular niche for a reason, and it's something that I don't do or I don't have experience with. And so that's where I love referral partners, because you can say you're one and you can offer that, but then you can have a handful of people that you can go to as well and say, hey, I know somebody that can actually help you with this. And so I think when people tie their identity to their business and they think if someone says no, they're saying like, I am not worthy of this client. I used to do that and be like, oh, why can't I sell anything? But then when I started having conversations with people and just saying, well, what do you think that you need? And like, okay, let me take a look at it and see if
mm.
I agree with that. But that's took me a few years to start to realize sales is not really being pushy. It's just, are we a fit to work together? Can I help you? If I can't help you, I'm going to find someone that can. If I don't know anyone, then, maybe we'll meet again someday. We'll stay friends. So I think I changed that a lot. It was very negative in the beginning. And I think it's because of fear, I think.
Well, I was going to ask you that. What was the catalyst for that, and how did you? I'm not going to say overcome it, but how did you better handle that? Because there are still today people that have been in sales for 25 years that still get a little bit of, oh my God, what if they say no? They feel as if they're rejecting me. But what did you learn about yourself, and what have you learned through the process around selling when people actually do say no or not yet? What do you make that mean, and how do you move through that to then still be of value? Because you just one more person or one more business closer to the ideal client.
I think my epiphany happened when I ran an ad campaign targeting um, restoration cleaning companies, because my family had a cleaning business. I was familiar with a lot of the things that they deal with. And I had friends that were doing those types of businesses and they always had the same complaints. And when I went into that campaign, we wrote the sales script based on what I know about the industry and it landed really well.
Hmm.
And we had like 140 people interact with that ad within 2 days. And I had at least one or two sale calls a day for probably a month, that actually showed up, and I said, hey, this, and I was basically gathering information. I looked at it as, I'm going to find out, what do you actually need? What do you already have in place? And I just learned so much about the marketing industry that targets them because I had never positioned myself to target them as a niche.
Yeah.
And then I realized it's probably not the niche I want to target, but I did learn a ton about like the fact, that they really just want search intent data to plug into the systems they already have. Because most of them that I was targeting were at 50 to 100K a month, and they had a website, they had their systems in place, they had a feedback loop already with the workers that go out, so they could, some of them didn't, but most of them did already have perfect infrastructure, and a lot of them were franchise owners.
Mm,
So they were following a system already. And so they just said our biggest issue is fighting with each other over Angie's List leads, or these lead generation websites that some of them are fake, some of them never call you back, or 15 people are calling them within 10
mm,
seconds of submitting a form. And so my thing was, do you want to build your own lead, machine so that you're not relying on that? And they said, honestly, if you would just have search intent data, we would do a subscription to that, and we would want these zip codes in these areas. And that's what I ended up selling them on. So
mm.
yeah, it
Oh.
was a good learning lesson for me, but I also learned I don't really want to be a data broker either. So we did that, and I was like, "Oh," I'm like, we can keep, doing it and sending you those, but and I mean, it's good. They had plenty of stuff coming in. They had no idea that there was all these local searches because they were getting fed leads a different way. But if you look at it as a learning experience versus trying to, push something, I just, as soon as someone pushes me funny on a sales call, I'm like, you know what, let's regroup. I'll think about it. I gotta go. Because I'm like, you don't need to do that. Like, I'm looking for something, and I've booked a call because I need something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm firmly of the belief that, well, it's my philosophy that sales is the ultimate form of service. So
Mhm.
you have to have a belief that what you offer to the marketplace is obviously valuable, that it fits a specific or a solution that fits a specific problem. But also understanding that not everybody's going to be a fit and not everybody's going to want that solution or want to solve the problem in the first place. So yes, you probably have to ask and do some questions and do some exploration. And if there is a fit, show them how you can work together, but not do it to the point where you've got to close at every opportunity. Yeah, because that's desperation, and desperation comes across as a bit of commission breath, and nobody likes that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's the big pitfall that people don't realize. And I think that's what I was doing in the beginning.
Mm,
Just feeling like I have to sign these clients because I'm a single mom now and I have to get money in the door, and I'm freaking out. And you know what I did? I found a part-time job in the mornings. I could afford daycare for part-time, and then I had friends babysit for me, and it was brutal, but I had, if cash in your household is your immediate need, starting a business is probably something you want to wait on, or at least slowly move into, because
mm,
you've got to have cash coming in your house. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've gone back into the workforce too. I know on other podcasts I've mentioned this, that for 2 years I went back to work full time just because I had gotten myself into debt. I went through a divorce. I had, like, my credit score was a disaster area because of all the things I was trying to
mm.
walk through while still running a business, which is a lot. So I went back in, I got my finances sorted, I made some money for a period. And then while I was working full time, I had people contact me from years ago. Do you still do marketing? We need your help. And like,
Mm.
boom, 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 like multiple clients just came on through my network. So, but I left my website there. I kept social media kind of warm, and I never totally shut down anything. And it kind of organically did that. And I said, okay, we got to get back to doing stuff again. Yeah.
So talk about then, because I'm really interested in the mindset that you had to, I guess, develop and maintain over that period of time. And everybody goes through it, whether you're in a corporate role, a small business owner, entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever. We all go through peaks and troughs in terms of mindset. What did you learn through that process, and what kept you going?
I just knew that eventually I would figure it out. I do really believe everything is figure outable. I do think that it doesn't matter if you're a small business or a corporate business, your it's really similar problems happen. They're
Mm,
just at different sizes, and there's way more people involved on a corporate level, but a lot of the same issues pop up again. And a lot of it's communications. But I think in my mindset at the time, I don't know. I would compare myself with other entrepreneurs. I'd say, oh, this person started after me and they're ahead of me. At least that's what it looks like online. You don't know what the real story is behind the scenes. But I'm sitting here like I'm in yoga pants and a sweatshirt and I'm running to the thing and I got a call and then all of a sudden my babysitter cancels. I got to take my daughter to a coffee shop with a potential client, which was so unprofessional.
yeah.
But it ended up being okay. And a lot of those people ended up signing with me, even though because she was very well behaved. But it was rough. I mean, there was years, then I had, when you do get a contract, I had even a situation where I signed a large contract. I was really excited. I hired on some people to come help me with it. And the client never paid the second half of the invoice, even though all the work was delivered. And then realizing, oh gosh, I got to get business insurance. I have to get a lawyer now because, new problems are happening
Mm,
once you do have money coming in. And I just, in my mind, I thought, no matter what, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to dust myself off. If I have to go back and work a job, fine. If I have to call an attorney and have a consultation, I'll pay them for an hour of time or whatever it is. I just thought I know it's going to all click at some point.
mm,
And because I don't think I'm a dummy. I think I can figure stuff out. And, you have to have that weird, relentless, almost like stupid optimism to try to just keep going. It's going to be fine because it's all people based. And what I realize now is when you get out of your own way, you keep clients for a long time. And now the
mm.
list of clients I have, I mean, I think they're all at around 6 years, my retainer clients, with
Nice.
some project stuff that comes in and out. But really, the retainer we keep for a while because I feel like their money's my money, and if I blow it and I don't do a good job, it hurts them. And
Mm,
I've paid for things and haven't gotten what I wanted or what was promised to me, and so I try not to do that to anybody else. And I've given refunds when I've screwed up and things like that, but I stopped making the business my identity, and I've realized it was like a means to an end, a tool to make money and meet fun people, and I've done some really fun things in with my business. So I feel like it's been kind of a fun journey instead of, like you said, focusing on outcomes.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I love the how you said there's always a solution to every problem and you'll figure it out. Which is a mindset that you need to have because there's always going to be a challenge and it's not going to be all all unicorns and rose petals flying through the air. There will be some challenges you have to, yeah, so you've got to build resilience.
Yeah, and I think most business owners who make it past 5, 10 years, they've seen the worst and they've probably been like overdrafting their bank accounts, looking for the ramen noodle section in the grocery store. What can I do to get food on the table and not like have to go back to work full time? But then you learn, why did I get here? Like, what did I do? And you have to self-reflect. And I think,
Mm.
it's almost better than therapy if you want to dissect yourself. Start a business and learn all the things
Well,
about yourself.
it can very quickly magnify some things and show you what you need, where your challenges are, but also where your opportunities lie as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So talk to me about the, I guess, the reasoning behind the book and what drove you to write the Revenue Runway and what are the, I guess, the key pillars within the Revenue Runway that you work with your clients through.
The first one, since it's pretty new, I wanted to write the book because number one, I feel like people overthink it. And instead of just doing, I didn't think about it. I just started doing stuff. And so I felt like in a way that was good. Because I didn't really know what I didn't have a business coach. I didn't even think about hiring one. I didn't, because it was kind of an accidental thing. I feel like I did it backwards. But I just thought, okay, if I can help with mindset straight off the bat, like the first section of the book is all mindset. There's these little quizzes you can test yourself and figure out where you stand as far as like fear of not having enough money, or what do you have a fear of not having support? Do you have a fear of whatever your things are? There's like six
Mm,
that we figured out are kind of common amongst most business owners and people who they're afraid to start their own thing. So this is really for startups. And then I I went in and said, okay, these three things, the ideal client and the offer, and then how you're gonna speak to them on those sales calls. I feel like those three are the ones you got to nail down just to get money in the door. Don't worry about being super pretty and fancy and whatever until you have those things kind of nailed. And then sustaining it, and after that, if you deal with a difficult client, here's things you could run into with difficult clients, just if whatever. So kind of that's the way the book is structured. The framework, I don't know if I should have called it a framework. That's really it. It's like mindset. And then I look back and I'm like, is it a framework really? I don't know. But the mindset, the big three things that you need in place, and then how to continue those relationships and deal with problems as they come up. Just super simple.
So if you're working with somebody from scratch today, do you start with mindset, or do you start with helping them create a picture of their ideal client that then enables them to focus their, I guess, their energy, their messaging, and so forth?
I would start with, it depends on where they're at. So if they feel like they want to start a business, but they don't know what to do, they just always dreamed of having that freedom to make their own schedule and things. I would start with, what are you good at? And who do you like to serve? If you were never going to get paid for this and it was just something fun that you could do and like something that you're really good at, and just make a list. I'm really good at copy editing. I used to get all A's in college, or I'm really good at whatever, and then here's people I really love to work with, or, you know, I map that out and then figure out, okay, these are all the things that I could potentially do. And then what would you charge? And then how would you shape that messaging to get clients in the door?
Mm.
And maybe they go back to the mindset pieces if something comes up. But I know a lot of friends of mine who have asked me to help them start every kind of business you can think of. Um, they don't even start because they have this mental block. Like they've already gone online and Googled how to start a blah blah business or whatever.
Mm.
And then the second they see something that's outside of their experience level, they don't move forward. And that's where I think the mindset piece comes in. Like, stop being scared of things that haven't happened yet, problems you don't have yet. Just start doing it.
So where do you think that comes from? Is it the fact that they're looking for certainty, they're afraid of rejection, they're putting themselves out there, and maybe people who they've known for a while are saying, "Oh, you're doing that thing."
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a lot of fear and like self-confidence. I mean, I've seen people be afraid of succeeding and failing. I mean, there's people who are starting to get revenue coming in and they're kind of like, oh, what do I do now that
Mm.
who do I hire, and how do I approach all this? So, um, it's complicated. I think it's individual.
It can be, it can be, but sometimes, and I think you said it before, we've got to learn how to get out of our own way, because
Hmm.
we can be the best catalyst for our business, but also the biggest blocker
Yeah,
for our business and for our career. So it's what you think up here that's obviously going to determine what actions we take and therefore the results we get. And if you think that, you know what, I'm not going to put myself out there because I'm afraid of what people might think of me, then you're going to hold yourself to a smaller standard. And think about it, the world is going to be poorer for them not hearing the message that you have. So
I agree.
we've got to work on, and you've got to have an ideal picture of your ideal client, of course, and go through what's the process to get access to them, and what sort of offers do I provide them, and how do I have those conversations. But it's got to start with, hey, I want to add value to this particular section of the marketplace, and this is who I'm going to be going after. Now, I'm going to have a lot of people that say no, and that's okay. It may just be they're not ready, but it's what you actually make that mean that often
Yeah.
will determine what happens next.
Yes, exactly. And then their comfort level, because I tell people, look, there's a bajillion people who do marketing, and there's a bajillion people who do name an industry. It's just your personality is going to attract a certain type of person too.
Mm,
So if you put yourself out there in video or in your content, if people really like you, resonate you, feel like they could work with you, it's that's the differentiator too on its own.
yeah.
And you could just be really good at house cleaning or really good at making jewelry or really good at whatever, but if you never show anyone your work or put yourself in front of a camera or even if you just blog and put your pictures
Mm.
with a blog as a starter, you have to, it is scary because you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm putting it on the internet, millions of people are gonna comment on me. Really, unless you're Kim Kardashian, you're probably not gonna have that problem. Not at the beginning, at least.
No, no, but when you think about it, what we are probably doing is adding value as compared to what Kardashians do. What these influencers in quote
I
inverted
see it that
commas,
way. Yeah.
what the hell do they do?
I don't know. Influencer is a funny word.
It is, but you're right, and uh, people out there, we think that people are going to judge us. Yeah, they probably will, but it's we are our biggest critics, and you don't want to go down in history, and you don't want to look back on your life or your career and think, you know what, I played too small. I held things to myself, and I didn't give the benefit to the people in my community, in my state, in my country, or the world. I didn't give them the benefit of at least looking at what they could have got access to improve whatever the elixir is that you're talking about. You
Mhm.
don't want to be the world's best kept secret. So you've got to put yourself out there. And when you do that, you're going to be open to criticism. And no matter how's this? Are there people in your world, Kalen, that don't like you?
Oh yeah.
But when you say that to people, they think, "Oh my God, but you don't like me. Why don't you like me? I'm very likable. What's wrong? What's wrong with me?" Well,
Uh,
you just might resonate on a completely different frequency, and that's okay.
yeah. Yep. And somehow the way you say things or the way you do things just doesn't click with that particular
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And that's okay.
So, for people who are listening to this, who might be wanting to start their own side hustle, currently in a role within a corporate or a small business, or thinking about moving into some sort of entrepreneurial phase, because you deal with a lot of these people every single day. What are some first steps, some practical first steps that people might be able to think about and put in place? So at least it gives them the opportunity to starting to build some momentum.
I'd say they already know kind of what they want to do and who they want to serve. It sounds dumb, but I would just start a Facebook page. Get halfway decent imagery in there, put what you do, and you don't need a website. You don't need to add any website links or anything like that. If you want to be really extra fancy, you can start a YouTube channel, put that link in your Facebook, and have people get to know you if you're not afraid to go on camera and talk about what you're doing.
Mm,
And then invite all your friends to like your Facebook page. It's literally, I just helped my husband start his mental health practice and his online presence. And we started with a very basic landing page that had a phone number and a calendar booking link at the very top and not much else. And then the Facebook page links to that, but it has his resume, who he serves, but it's a landing page. It's not anything complex. And then we invited all of our friends to like it, and people are already like, oh my gosh, I know somebody that really needs to talk to someone.
mm,
And he goes, oh, well, I've already got, all these followers. And it's just a process and it's fun. You just look at it as it's fun. You're networking without leaving your couch. You're meeting people. And then when you want to go, I mean, go to local things. And I did that for a long time just to get over my fears. I
yeah.
would go to networking groups, even if it was a Rotary Club or a Chamber of Commerce thing. I'd bring my cards, I'd say hi to people, and then eventually, I would just get to know people in the community, and it's so not as scary as you would think.
Mm.
We're all really wanting to connect with other people. And some of my closest friends now are because of my business. They were clients before and now we're friends. And it's I just think it's the most fun thing you can do once you get started. But those little simple things it doesn't take a long time. You could do it in a couple hours.
And the big thing about that is, and I add one more thing to that is don't fall into the trap of comparing yourself to others who might be in the same industry or the same niche that you think, oh my God, they look so much more successful than I am. I should have started this 5, 10 years ago. Look at me. I'm so far behind. You are where you are and just move forward with that. But don't compare yourself because half the time when you send with the greatest amount of respect the people that post everything on various social platforms, a lot of it is not real.
Yes. the people renting Lamborghinis for their videos. You just don't know the truth. You don't know what
Oh,
their real sales numbers look like. And to be honest with you, some of them, they get all excited, post all this stuff, and then they fizzle out in 2 years.
mm,
I would rather help someone build a business they're going to be happy with and it's going to grow slowly with them over time. They're not going to have to shut it down in a year or two because they went way too fast. They lost control of everything and then they tanked. I
yeah,
would rather, like, we just don't work with people that like that. Everybody who's wanted a flash in the pan, get rich quick thing, who's like, oh, but I heard this and I just need this AI, or why don't you, I've heard this on this podcast, you should be doing that. And I'm just like, okay, I build the foundations because I know all this happy, shiny stuff that you're chasing after, you're going to sign up for an AI, try to use it. It's not going to do what they advertise. You're going to cancel it. Then you sign up for another subscription, you try to make that. Then you cancel it. You have to want to do the work. And it's
yeah.
not just set up a website and they will come. You have to get yourself out there.
That's it. So it does take work. You got to think about your messaging, put it out there, and be consistent with it, right? Because I had somebody telling me it was actually on a podcast just before Christmas. She was saying that most people need to see content between 10 and 15 times before they
Nowadays,
start to interact with you. So build this familiarity, and if there's consistency in that, then that's where you build your credibility from.
it is true. And it really doesn't take that long. If they see you posting 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it's
Mm,
your face in a video, that really maybe only a month or two. And they're like,
yeah,
oh, let me see what this person does because I've seen them in my feed
yeah,
a bunch.
absolutely, absolutely. So hey, Kalen, as we wrap this up, it's been a great conversation. For people listening to this that want to know a little bit more about you, KMC Digital, but also get a copy of the book Revenue Runway, where is the best place for them to do that?
The digital book is on Amazon. The fastest way is the revenuerunway.com. And that's a sales landing page. We're going to add to it, but right now it just takes you direct to Amazon. It's 99 cent digital download for the pre-order. And February 15th will be the other options like audio and the print copy.
Nice.
And that is when the portal will be ready. We're still doing some tweaks to the portal, but they'll get freebies included in that book once they're ready on the
Okay.
15th.
Nice. And then I can add maybe things like your website and also LinkedIn. People want to connect with you as well.
Yep, LinkedIn /in/Kalen Marie. That's the best. And then I have my business stuff linked there.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. I'll put all that on the show notes, and I'll encourage people to connect with you and get a copy of the book as well.
Okay.
So, if there was one parting message, given that we're at the start of 2026, that you'd like to leave people with as a piece of encouragement, a piece of Kalen wisdom, what would that be?
Oh gosh. The surest way to fail is to quit. So if you're going to do it, I would do it now. You don't get endless time on this earth. And so I would say bet on yourself, start it now, and do not quit, even when it gets really hard, even if you have to rebrand 5 times, sell 17 different things. I think the KFC became famous when he was like in his 80s. So you have plenty of time. You have plenty of time.
There's
Just
lots of
start.
time.
Yeah.
I love that. Stay the course, in other words. Just stay the course and but be open to feedback, but also be flexible and not fixed in terms of your mindset. Be a person of growth mindset. And
Mhm.
shout out to Carol Dweck for that. Awesome. Thank you, Kalen. It's been a great pleasure having you on the podcast, and all the best to you in 2026. And thanks for being a guest again. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com, and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.